don't underestimate. Never, ever look down upon anybody, because you may be looking down on the wrong person.
Let's take a closer look at things. Welcome back to the Wild Business Growth Podcast. This is your place to hear from a new entrepreneur every single Wednesday morning who's turning wild ideas into wild growth. I'm your host, Max Branstetter, founder and podcast producer at MaxPodcasting. And you can email me at max@maxpodcasting.com to save time with your high-quality podcast. This is episode 174, and today's guest is Dr. Willard Wigan, MBE. He is the creator of the world's tiniest masterpieces. He's a micro-sculptor known all around the world, basically all around the universe. And he creates some of the most beautiful and literally smallest, tiniest, yet biggest impact pieces of artwork that you will ever see. Now, this is a good one. You should literally take a second to Google this right now. Actually, take more than a second. Take as much time as you want. You can do it throughout this podcast. Google Willard Wigan. Check out his amazing creations. Check out his website, willardwiganmbe.com. You will be amazed to the most microscopic and macroscopic levels. Willard's creations are a fraction of a millimeter in size. They're often placed within the eye of a needle or on top of a pin. Growing up, Willard was teased by students and teachers and basically told he would never amount to anything due to having what would later be known as autism and dyslexia. In this interview, he reveals the life-changing events that happened when he was a child that inspired him to start creating his artwork that would later earn him an MBE honor by the Queen, as well as 2 Guinness World Records, award-winning documentaries, TV appearances, and exhibits, and even being featured in Ripley's Believe It or Not around the world. Willard is one of the most inspiring people you will ever listen to, and has a way with words, humor, metaphor, analogy, and sound effects that are sure to bring a smile to your face and make you peer into the inside of the eye of a needle. It is Dr. Willard. Enjoy the show. Alrighty, we are here with Willard Wigan, the most incredible sculptor, micro-sculptor even, of the tiniest, most beautiful masterpieces you will ever encounter. Willard, thank you so much for joining. How you doing today?
It's a pleasure, Max, to talk to you and share, my experiences, and so people can get an insight into me and what I'm all about. It's an honor to be on your show, on your podcast.
Of course, you can call it a show, you can call it a podcast, you can call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I really, really appreciate you making time and just blown away by your whole lifetime of creation. So, of course, we're going to get to that. But I want to start off with you at an early age running away from school. What made you do that?
Well, if you think about it, when sometimes kids start school with confidence, sometimes kids start school with no confidence or very little confidence. And in my case, it was microscopic confidence, because, I knew I had something, age 5, sometimes you can understand that there's something not quite right, even at that age. Because when my mother used to try and get me to spell my name, I couldn't spell it, I couldn't write. I just could not communicate academically. I knew I had some kind of disorientation problem. I don't know whether you call it disorientation But I call it a learning difference. I knew I had some kind of learning difference. I knew that. So when I was at school, it all became apparent that something was wrong. But I don't call it wrong. I call it a blessing, you see. Because if I never had that, I wouldn't be who I am today, you see. But during that period of 1962, in the UK, if you couldn't read well, you'd get humiliated. The teachers would humiliate you. But they would humiliate you with sort of theatrical humiliation. Here we have failure. This is what happens if you don't listen to the teacher, you become Willard. Willard is not what to become. So therefore, I'm going to exhibit you, take you around the school and let all the children see what you are, and hold my exercise book up like that, so all the kids could see my writing, and my spelling, whatever. It was like, I would say, I don't know whether you ever saw the film Great Expectations. When you saw that woman, Miss Havisham, you hear the way she speaks. It's like, if she spoke, you'd think the house was haunted. You know what I mean? She'd say, "Oh, Pip, you can break his heart." So, it was like that horrible voice, like, your work is disgusting and all the children need to know. So therefore, I'm going to exhibit you as failure because you are a failure. It was like, when I heard that voice, that was it. I just thought, that's it. She took me around the whole school, told all the kids about me. So, when I heard that, I just decided not to speak anymore because I thought, well, if you say that's what I am, I'm going to accept it and become what you said. So if my voice ain't going to mean anything, so why should I open my mouth and say something? Because it's not going to matter. My voice won't be accepted. So I'm not going to speak. So I stopped speaking because the humiliation was so bad. It made me feel like a leaf being blown around in the wind. So I'm not going anywhere. It's like quicksand in despair because now I've been traumatized by this woman, this teacher, traumatized me so much and embarrassed me so much that even my existence at school was affected. So, my left leg was in school, my right leg was out. So now my body's there, my mind isn't there anymore. So I don't exist there. Physically, I'm there, but mentally, I'm not there because, that's it. The humiliation was so bad. So, I had to do something about that. So, how you do something about it is run away from school. Take your body away from that moment, from that situation, from that embarrassment, because you're not really there. You're not accepted. So why should I be there? So I ran away.
What emotions are going through your mind when you make that first step, whether it was your left or right foot, out of school? I'm just going to run away. This is kind of the start of a new chapter here.
I didn't live too far from the house, so it was quite a nice feeling. It was a nice summer's day. I thought, yeah, I need some solitude. I need some tranquility. I need to find me. You see, so I've lost me now, so I've got to find me. So I running away was a great opportunity. I went to the bottom of the playground, and I could see a gap under the fence. I just sneaked under the fence, and I just kept running. It was a nice feeling because I was running, and I could feel the breeze blowing in my face, and I was like looking back, and I could see the school disappearing in the distance, microscopic school disappearing. You know what I mean? And I just kept running. Then I came to this pond. There was a little field where I used to live, like a field, and I sat by this pond. It was a nice feeling. It was this sort of tranquility, you see, because I know that, nobody's going to say anything to me. The wind isn't going to say nothing to me. The birds are not going to say nothing to me. The insects are not going to say anything to me. So I'm there sitting there and I'm looking into the water. I'm looking at all these pond bugs swimming around on the top of the water. They call them whirly beetles, and they're swimming around. There's an insect in the UK, they call it a water boatman. It's like a little insect. And
I imagine it's a bug in the water. if I'm reading that definition
yeah.
correctly.
Yeah, that's right. And I was looking into the water, and it was such a nice feeling. And then I at the edge of this pond, it was where the water went all shallow. I saw the water go misty, and I looked, and there was like a newt. We call them newts. Are like little lizards, water lizards, and swimming in the water. And I felt so exciting about it all. It was an exciting feeling because I'm now sitting in my little world now. So no one can say nothing to me. There's no teachers to say anything to me. And I started picking up leaves and looking at the veins in the leaves. I started picking up rocks and looking underneath the rocks and seeing all the little bugs crawling around. And I started putting them in the middle of my hand and looking at them. And I kept thinking that they could speak. See? I thought they had little mouths and they could communicate with each other. And I would say, hello, little bugs, hello. And I talked to them, but I didn't hear anything. Perhaps they said something in their own little language. But that's what I believe, you see, because autism is a very strange thing, you see, because, it's like you tend to find your own world somewhere along the line. You'd believe so many little things. You'd believe there were little people living in your house. There were little people living in the bottom of the garden. There was fairies. There was leprechauns. Because I saw a program called The Borrowers on the TV,
Yeah, of
I was
course.
sort of captivated by that world. I was wrapped up in that world. So I was there for a good hour or so, probably a bit longer than that. And I just sat there, and then I saw this blue brooch flying. It was this blue color. I thought it was a brooch. But I looked closely, it was a dragonfly. And it was flying around and it was zooming like that. And it was so exciting, because you see what it was with me, you see. It's the little things that meant a lot to me. You see what I mean? The big world didn't accept me, so I'm now looking at my own world. After about an hour and a half, I got up and I started to run to get closer to my house, you see. And I started to get a little bit afraid because my mother was the type of woman you don't mess with, you see. Because if my mother threw a punch at you and it missed you, you'd catch pneumonia off the draft. Because she was one of these women.
I think I caught it from you just saying that.
Yeah, she's a disciplinarian. My mother is. But at the same time, she only wanted the best for us. My dad, I didn't get on with my dad. My dad wasn't good. Didn't get on with him. But, I was a little bit afraid. So I got closer to the house and I saw the fence. Behind the fence, there was a shed. And so I climbed over the fence. My mother used to work part-time, you see. She'd take me to school and then she'd go off to work. So, that was a nice time for me to run away, you see. So that was good. But I climbed over the fence and I hid in the shed. And at the time, we used to have a little dog, you see. So I was hiding in the shed thinking my mother was going to, discover that I'm there.
Give you pneumonia.
Yeah, but she didn't know I was there. So, because she'd gone to work, you see. And then I heard the dog scratching away at the shed door. So I opened the shed door because the dog, he knew I was in there. The dogs are clever, he knew I was there. So I opened the door and I seen my dog and I held my dog and I started to hug my dog and kiss my dog. Because I love dogs. When I was kissing him and he's hello, Willard, in dog language. hello.
That's pretty fluent, I think.
Yeah. So, and then he had this ball. You see, he bought this ball like a chewed up tennis ball, and he brought the ball to me. I want to play. I want to play. So I'm like, when a dog wants to play, you got no choice. I thought, yeah, I'm going to play with the dog, and I got this ball, and I bounced the ball. The dog brought it back to me. And there I was playing with the ball with the dog. And then I bounced the ball. It went over the next door neighbor's fence, and I'm like, I was going to climb over and get the ball. But then, my dog started digging underneath the fence. He's probably thought he can dig a hole and get underneath. When he'd done that, he disturbed an ant's nest. All these ants came out of the ground, lots of ants. And when I saw that, I felt sad, because I felt that the ants are homeless, that they have nowhere to live. And I kept thinking the queen ant, it's got no palace, and all the little baby ants can't go to school, and they've got nowhere to live. The queen ant's got no palace, like I said, and I started to believe the queen ant was real, you see, and I thought ants could speak, and they lived in little houses, and so now my head has gone into this fantasy world. This my world has now begin. That my world has started to begin. So now I'm thinking that I need to help the ants. So what I did, I went into my house, because in the 60s they used to leave the door open. The people didn't break into houses as much as they do now. So I went in the house and I went upstairs, went into the bathroom, and I saw my dad's razor blade. And I took the razor blade, and I went downstairs, and I got a twig and put it into the razor blade and snapped a piece of razor blade off. In my hand, I had a shard of razor blade.
Oh my God.
So what I did, I started picking up little splinters of wood and slicing these little bits of wood. And I started to construct and build little houses for ants. So I didn't use there was no glue. It was just me cutting bits of wood and pushing them together with their own friction, pulling out fibers out of my shirt, and then wrapping it around and holding them into position. And, I didn't think it was a gift. It was just something I could just do naturally. I didn't think it was anything special. So, I built all these little houses, and, then I got a piece of hardboard, and I punched little holes in, and I built all the little houses, pushed them in between the splinters of wood that I pushed through the back of the cardboard. And then I thought, oh, damn. I thought, oh, shit. But I never said, oh, shit, then. I just went, oh, no. The ants need some furniture. So I started making them little tables and chairs, and, out of leaves and things, cutting little leaves into squares, punching little holes in, cutting the splinters off and pushing them through the leaves to make little tables. And then I made little chairs and things like that. And I made a little carousel out of some silver foil, pushed that into the cardboard, bent the silver foil into a little comb, and put it onto the actual splinter. And I made cut out little shapes of horses, and thinking the ants would get on it and ride the carousel. And then, what happened to me? I became possessed. Because I started to feel that if I didn't do this, the ants would be crying, the ants would be unhappy. And, and I didn't want the ants to cry, you see, because I kept thinking all the baby ants are going to cry, and the mother ants won't be happy because they'll have nowhere for the kids to live. So this my autistic mind went into overdrive, and what happens, you see, when you have autism, you have an extremity of ability. So you have this ability to do so much more, because, you see, people are humanity has a habit of underestimating, you see. So I knew then that I was going to help the ants in my head. But as I carried on working, building all these houses, time flew, you see. I could hear the kids coming home from school, you see. I could hear the school bell going off, and then it was like, I'm now shitting myself. Oh, fuck. Oh, fucking hell. If my mother catches me, see, my mother, right, when my mother used to hit you, she'd tell you a story while she's hitting you. She wouldn't just hit you, she'd tell you a story. She'd say, I came to England in 1955, and I remember why do I want to hear a story while I'm being kicked the shit out of? But, my mother did it for love, really. You know what I mean? So I'm now thinking, shit, when she comes back, I'm going to get the crap kicked out of me. You know what I mean? So I'm a little bit scared, you see. But what happened? I'm hiding, by the fence. Their next door neighbour's fence is there, and our fence is here. So the shed is here, and I'm just behind the shed. And then all of a sudden, I heard the door slam, and I heard the next door neighbour's kids come home. You see, and I saw one of the girls skipping down the garden path. In the UK, they used to skip a lot in the 60s. Ring the roses, a pocket full of toesies. You know what I mean?
Who doesn't like singing that specific song?
You know what I mean? England, it's almost like, I think it stemmed back from the 17th century. They used to just, I don't know what it is.
Everyone skipped.
Orange and lemon, said the bells of St. Clements. You know what I mean? A tissue. We all this haunting songs that they would sing. Here comes the chopper to chop off your head. You know what I mean? Three blind mice, see how they run. There was like, I don't know what it is, but they used to skip a lot anyway. And I remember she come skipping down the garden path, and she looked over the fence, and she saw me, and it was like, she looked at me and just stared at me. She was eating you'd call it candy, but we call it sweet, and she was sucking away at this candy and holding it up to the light and looking at it. Then she looked at me, she says, your mom's looking for you, and your mom's not happy, and I'm going to tell. So now I'm thinking, oh shit, so I'm like, at that age, I'm not thinking the word shit. I'm just thinking, oh.
We won't hold it against you.
Yeah. I didn't say don't tell. I said, I held my head like that down. Then I heard her go, wow. I heard her do that, make that noise. So I'm thinking, what's she saying that for? And then she said, where you get that from? And I said, I'll make it. She went, that's the bestest. That's the bestest. And I heard that word. When she saw the little houses and everything, and the Queen's Palace, which was made out of a leaf, I twirled a leaf together, 4 leaves, and cut out little windows in the leaves and pushed splinters between them to hold them together. And it looked like Cinderella's palace, and it was in the middle of this piece of hardboard and paper cardboard. And I could hear her going, wow, that's amazing. That's really good. That's really. And then I heard her run down the garden and call her mom. I heard her say, Mom, look at this, Mom, come here, come and have a look at this. In the 60s, they would never call you by your name. They'd say, look at the coloured boys made, look at the coloured boys made, So, and then a mum came at the garden to tell me that my mum's looking for me. And I remember she came at the garden, and she was just looking, and she went, oh my God. I heard her mum say that. Absolutely amazing. How did you make that? And I heard her call her husband, Bob. There's always a Bob in the UK.
Bob's your uncle. That's my fiance and I's favorite term.
Yeah, then he came down the garden path, and then and then she said, look at that. And he went, bloody hell. Bloody hell. Yeah, he must have broken the world record for saying bloody hell. So, all I kept saying was, bloody hell. Blind me, bloody hell. You know what I mean? I'm thinking, he says, that's amazing. And they call the son came and had a look. And then they went next door to see a lady next door, Miss Price or Miss Benjamin, the name or whatever her name is. Oh, come and have a look at this, Okay, all I could hear was, oh my God. So now, Max, what's happened to me now? I'll tell you what's happened to me now. Now they've just told me that I'm good, you see. Now, because they just told me that, I've now taken it into an extreme digestion. So I've taken it I've extremely digested everything that they said, because I never had anybody say anything to me like that.
So that early tiny art that you built for these ants, that reaction was really the first praise you got for something like that.
That's it, Max. You hit the nail right on the head. That's pinpoint accuracy there. what you just said there.
I try.
Yeah. So it's like this, Max. See, when you're autistic, if I was doing this, bending this piece of paper like this, and if somebody came along and said to me, "Oh, that's good. That's really good," and I'm bending a piece of paper, then 3 days later, I'd still be bending it. You know what I mean? Because what's happened, I needed somebody to praise me, you see, and I got praised. Now, that's my frontier now. Now I'm like, it's like the gods threw down this microscopic gift, and I caught it, you see. So then I heard the door go slam, and then my mum came up the garden. Because my mum was angry, you see, because she'd come to collect me. I wasn't at school. She came up the garden. Then she could see the neighbours all looking and stuff, looking over the fence, and and then my mum was shouting at me, "Where you been? Where you been?" And then my neighbour says, "Oh, Mrs. Wigan, don't worry, I brought him home. So then they said, "Mrs. Wigan, have you seen what your son's made?" I could hear that. And what's happened? How come you wasn't at school? And she was so het up with me not being at school. She's concentrating on wanting to let me know what's going to happen to me for running away. But then all of a sudden, that diluted. And then the lady next door says, "Have a look. Look at that, Mrs. Wigan." Then my mum looked at it. My mum, like that. And then she kind of looked at me and then looked at what I'd done. And I held it in my hand like this. And she picked it up like that. She was looking at it. I thought she was going to throw it away. But she looked at it. She called me in the house. She put it on the table. And she looked at it like that and said, "You make that?" I said, "Yeah." And then she said to me, "Make them smaller and your name will get bigger." So that was the journey. That was like the starting pistol, when the starting pistol goes off.
Yeah, that's a hell of a starting pistol. How'd you react to your mom saying to go smaller?
Well, you see, whenever I made something small, I kept thinking insects. I kept thinking that they're going to live there. They're going to occupy what I've made. So it's almost as though it's like my life depended upon this. I can't do anything else. There's nothing else I can do. So my mother kept telling me, she said, "Look, you can't read, you can't write, make little things." My mum would never use the word sculpture. She'd just say, "Make little things." So then every time I made something, she'd say, "It's too big." So, I got a toothpick and I started carving all the Beatrix Potter characters on a toothpick. Lots of Beatrix Potter characters. I just kept carving, and then I showed my mum, and she said, "Too big." So that kind of made me, it's almost like the only word I can use really is possession. I'm possessed now to go into a world of extreme obsession to please my mother. So I started carving like little horses and little dogs and things and show my sisters. And I was like, wow, and the girl next door went and told some of the kids in the street, and loads of kids would come around to see what, I'd say, "Oh, can we see those little people on sticks? Can we see those little people?" And then all these kids would come to have a look, and I'd be showing them these toothpicks with these little carvings on. And then some of them would give me money, like threepence, 3 pence, 3 pennies.
Ooh, I like that. That's a new word for me.
Yeah, in the UK, used to get pounds and pence back in the 60s, pennies, threepence and 2 shillings. So, and that was giving me this money, and someone giving me candy. So now I now believe that I am now destined now to become what I've become today. So that journey started. When I went back to school, I remember the teacher had told me that any boy runs away from school shall face the consequences. So therefore, I'm going to take you to the headmaster where you shall be severely dealt with. Well betide you, young man. You know what I mean? Come along with me. You know, you feel like it's like you're in some kind of Dracula film. You know what I mean? You know, she's going to take you to see the vampire. You know, the headmaster. You're coming along with me to see the headmaster where you shall be dealt with.
Oh no.
My God, no. You know what I mean? So you're being dragged, and you know, I remember going then corridor and then knocked the door. You know, the headmaster came. What do we have here? Willard Wigan has run away from school and he's been disruptive in the classroom and he's playing truant. He's not listening to a word we say and he's disrupting all the other children. You know, he's just a horrible woman. This woman was horrible. So the headmaster looked at me and he said, sit down, boy. I sat down and he went, I've been hearing a lot about you with these little sticks. Because one of the girls went in and told him about these little sculptures, you see. He said, don't worry about it, Willard. He said, it's not a problem. Let me see one of those little sticks. So in my pocket, I had a Peter Rabbit carved on a toothpick, and I showed it him. And he went, oh my God. That word always comes out a lot.
I was going to say.
If it was today, it'd be like, what the fuck's this? How the fuck?
Well, I'm just amazed. You know, magicians are known for pulling rabbits out of their hat, and you pulled Peter Rabbit out of your pocket. So that's impressive in itself.
Right, yeah. I like Peter Rabbit, you see. I used to like it. I like the Beatrix Potter, you see. I used to pick up the books and look at the characters because I couldn't read. So I just looked. So he looked at it like that and he was like, and he was so fascinated with what I'd done. I can't believe that. I can't believe that. I could see his eyes popping out of his head. How do you do this? And I had a tiny little bit of razor blade in my pocket. I said, this is tremendous. And he went and he gave me 10 shillings. And he says, can I keep it? I said, yes, sir, you can keep it. And he put it in his tin. And he says, listen, I know about you, Willard. He says, I'm going to try to get you to learn to read and write. So he got me to this lady called Mrs. Brown. Mrs. Brown was a lady that used to teach kids with learning differences, you see. Get them to learn to spell, you know, and stuff like that. Put these headphones on your ears and then, you know, when you spell cat, K-A-T. You spell mat, M-A-T. You know, all that stuff. And, you know, cat sat on the mat sat on the cat, all that crap, you know what I mean? So, see, I kept believing to myself that nothing else matters to me anymore. Nothing matters. So academics didn't matter to me. School didn't matter to me. All that matters to me was the school dinner. That's the only thing that mattered to me. But the headmaster got me to see this lady, Miss Brannan. She was a good woman to me. You know, she used to try and get me to read. But you see, the damage has already been done, you see. The damage has already been done from the beginning. So she couldn't really get me to communicate properly. Because no matter how much she tried to teach me to read, it didn't work because the damage has already been done. But you see, when you flip the coin over, you see, my mom used to say something to me that resonates with me and always will. She used to say, the diamond's in the trash bin. She said, the diamond is in the trash bin because people throw away talent without even uncovering it to see what's underneath it. And I said, why? She said, look, in the dustbin, that's where the diamond is because people underestimate. And because of that, what my mother said to me, my inspiration has now become underestimation. That's my inspiration because the word disabled, unable, autism, dyslexia, they're all diamonds in the dustbin, you see. But people have now decided to uncover it and realizing how beneficial autism is to the world. Because these people who have a natural ability and an extreme ability to go beyond explanation has been in the bin, the trash bin. And now they took these diamonds out of the bin, didn't realize they were diamonds until they were polished. And so now I'm now the diamond out of the dustbin, because I'm now, because of those words my mother used, that has enabled me to build my world with a message which is like throwing a grain of sand into the sea and a tidal wave of success, has come from nobody would expect a grain of sand to create a tidal wave. But my work has, you see. It's like a small key open up a key that's so small that opened up a door bigger than Mount Everest. People are saying, well, how come that tiny key has opened that big door? So that was a great feeling to me then, because I knew that then I have nothing else to do other than become the greatest micro artist of all time, because that is my path has been chiseled out for me. So it's like looking through a tunnel, you see. All I can see at the end of the tunnel is my success. I can see the Queen giving me my MBE. I saw it. I saw, when I say I saw it, I knew that I was going to get glory. Glory was going to come, because my mother was telling me that I'm going to be the greatest. I'm going to be the greatest. I am going to be the greatest. So words, you see, you can say everything and mean nothing, and say a few words and mean everything. And those few words, my mother said, if you make them smaller, your name get bigger. You see? So all that now I'm on this journey now. And you know what the bad news is? I'm getting greater.
That's the worst news.
Yeah, I'm 64, and I can put like 14 camels in the eye of a needle. I could put 22 camels in the eye of a needle. I'm doing sculptures now smaller than that can fit inside a human embryo. I'm sure you've seen that, Max.
I have. Not with my naked eye. I needed to zoom in quite a bit to see that one.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, come back to that side of my school life, nothing else mattered. But you know what actually happened? Kids started to know about me. Kids in the school became friends with me because they could see what I could do. I was making stuff that they didn't, I could have been an alien, I don't know. But I could be an alien, because kids used to make these planes at school that used to fly, they used to just drop boom, on the floor. And I found out how to make planes just stay up for a long time, little paper planes. I used to watch birds fly, and I used to get bits of paper, and I used to see if I could make a plane to look like a bird. And I found ways to strengthen the wings. I'd get little bits of wood, balsa wood and stuff, and bend the wood and make the wings into like a bird's wing, and put a little bit of plasticine on the end of it, and I flick it up in the air. And one time I flicked it up, and like a warm thermal caught hold of one of these planes, and it was flying around on this thermal. And all the kids are going, wow, how can you make me one? Can you make me one? So the science teacher wanted to know, who's done that? How's he do that? How? You know what I mean? So I got it and crumpled it up and threw it away, because I didn't really want to get involved with any of the teachers anymore. I didn't really want to, because the kids are innocent, you see. Kids are innocent. It's the adults that should educate the children. So because they saw me as nothing, so I thought, okay, you say I'm nothing, I'm going to become nothing while I'm here in school, you see. But like I said, you flip over the coin, and it's like a small seed being thrown into the ground, right? And there's going to be a really big oak tree that's going to grow into, and it's going to branch off into my success, you see. So that tunnel vision stayed with me.
I really, really appreciate you sharing everything in I mean, I'm a huge fan of metaphor and analogy, and I think you've set the record. Oh, we'll add another Guinness World Record to your book because you have the best metaphors and analogies I've ever heard. But it's really, really just inspiring and amazing to hear what a big turning point, and I guess multiple turning points in school you went through, from literally being, someone who was made fun of and made a bad example out of from even teachers and peers, to being somebody that literally creates something and inspires people in a way that the reaction is, like you were saying, oh my God, wow, 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 all that. It's just really, really inspiring. It's like you embodied the diamond that you were talking about, and the true diamond, and you've found something that you can, really make an impact on the world with. Once you got more into your career and started doing, these official sculptures and, the variety, bunch of different characters, bunch of different themes, but what's one you can share an example of that really turned people's heads, created a lot of attention for you?
I decided to go for a walk. This is how it all happened. And I went down this place in the UK in Birmingham called Corporation Street. This is when the turning point came for me. I was about 30, 32, 33. I just went for a walk, and there was a shop there, and they sold all DIY tools, wood carving tools, lots of chisels, lots of saws, chainsaws, and everything. And they had this big wooden table, and on the top of the table, there was a big block of wood on the table. And I looked at this block of wood, walked into the shop, and I looked at this piece of wood, and the shopkeeper came out and said, "Hello, dear boy." His name is David Pond. He says, "Hello, dear boy." I said, "Hello." And he says, "Can I help you?" And I went, "I'm just looking at that piece of wood there." "Oh, do you like it?" And I said, "I'm just looking at it. I'm, just fascinated. What's it for?" "No, it's just there for show." Then I'd look at all these wood carving chisels, and I put them down again. And he says, "Are you a wood carver?" And I said, "No, but I make sculptures." "Like what? Can I see?" And I went, in my pocket, Beatrix Potter characters carved on a toothpick. He went, "Oh my God."
There's that reaction again.
And he says, "Did you do that? Did you do that?" And then he called his rest of his shop assistants, and his wife came and says, "Have a look at this, have a look at this." And I was like, "Wow, that's amazing." And I went, something clicked in my head. And I said, "I'll tell you what, why don't you let me carve something on that piece of wood, and I'll promote the shop, and I'll, endorse the tools, and I'll bring some interaction into the shop. I can be artist in residence. I can show people how to carve, what it'd be like to carve a piece of wood, and that piece of wood can turn into something beautiful." And he went, I mean, these tools cost a lot of money. If I give you the tools, that they're no longer brand new, they're secondhand. I said, "I don't have the money to pay for them, but if you let me do it, and I'll make money when I finish that piece of wood, and then you can have the money to buy the tools." And he went, took a deep breath, and then his wife says, "Go ahead and let him do it. That piece of wood has been standing there for 2 years, and I'm sick of the sight of it. Let him go ahead and make something out of it, and then you can see what happens then." And he went, "Oh, okay, then shall I plan all this? Shall I, let people know in advance what is about to happen?" And he says, No. I said, "No, take the bench outside, put the piece of wood on the bench, give me a mallet, give me a chisel, and watch." And he went, "But we haven't promoted it." I says, "You don't need to promote it, because there's a lot of people walking by. They'll see me doing it. They'll come into the shop. They'll interact in the shop. They'll talk to you. They'll talk to me. Watch me." And he went, "Okay, then, let's go." Took the piece of wood outside, and I got the mallet, and I started to carve away. Bam, 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 bam. "What are you carving?" I said, "Wait and see." Bam, 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 bam. All of a sudden, the head of William Shakespeare came out, and everybody started to crowd around the shop. And it's like, "Oh my God, William Shakespeare." And this lady came up, "Oh, is that William Shakespeare?" I said, "Yeah." "Oh, is it possible I could commission that?" And I said, yeah, I'm from the Shakespeare Society. I'd love that. I'd love a carving of Shakespeare. Will you do it? I said, yeah. How much is it? I said, just 1,500. She said, oh, I shall write you a check. Yeah, okay. I'm like, fucking hell. 1,500. I was like, my arms was going like bees' wings, and I carved this out of Shakespeare. Before I knew it, people coming up and saying, oh, can you carve me some ballet shoes? Can you carve me this? Can you carve? So now I'm like a wood carver. And then all of a sudden, this guy came from a newspaper and says, because lots of people coming into the shop. Mr. Pond came out to me and he says, he had a tear in his eye, started to cry. And he says, look, you keep the money, have the tools, you do what you want to do. And he was holding his eyes, with tears and stuff. And then this guy came from a newspaper and he said, I'm a journalist. I would like to do a story on you. And I'm like, yeah, don't mind. He says, how long have you been doing this? How did you start doing this wood carving? I showed him a little one. He's like, oh, wow, like that. He was like, wow, that story. And all of a sudden, everybody started to contact me. Could you make me this? Could you make me that? Could you carve me this? And then no more unemployment, because I was now an artist in residence. And this lady came and said, look, we're opening a new shopping centre called the Arcadian Centre. We'd like you to come in there and be artists in residence and do some wood carving so people can see what you do. You don't have to pay nothing, because these are new premises and they won't be rented out for some time, so you can stay there. Great big room, and I was carving in there. Then all of a sudden, people started coming in and asking me to do stuff, and our reputation grew. And then all of a sudden, this guy came in and said, Edward and Sophie's getting married. Could you do something to commemorate the wedding? So this is about 1998. So I carved Edward and Sophie on a match, and I called it the perfect match. And it went in the newspapers. I love that. The Sun, the Guardian, the Independent. These are top newspapers in the UK. And they did a story on me. They called me, and it went out all over the place. They called me Micro-Angelo. And then all of a sudden, I had a call from a program called The Big Breakfast Show. So what I did, what made me really big, start to grow, where the grain of sand was thrown into the sea, the tidal wave, it came from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I made Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in the Eye of the Needle. And they covered that. Bang. Then people started to contact me, and I had a call from some guys from the UK, from the Channel Island called Jersey. They asked to see me. And then before I knew it, a TV program called The Big Breakfast Show. They invited me on there. And then people started calling me the eighth wonder of the world. And then people started commissioning me to do work. I started to go into schools and talk to kids. I did loads of chat shows on TV, and my whole world changed. And by then, my mother was sick. My mother was dying. And I showed my mother one of my sculptures before she died. And she said, it's too big. So just before my mother died, she told my work was too big. But by then, I knew why she said it. So you know what? My mother's words resonated in my mind. So time moved on. I started to get greater. And then I invested in a microscope. I bought a big microscope. I started to train myself, because from an early age, I could keep my hands still anyway. So I started to hold my breath and work in between my heartbeat and hold my breath. And I noticed that my hands were so steady. And I thought, how can I keep my hands so steady? And I realized that because I've been doing it all my life, so that's all I could do. So all my dexterity got better, everything got better. So then I started doing commissions, people commissioning me to do like Little Miss Muffet, things like that. Can you make me some fairies, in a little box? Can you make me a lady on a horse? Could you make me two people holding hands? Can you make me my family in the Eye of a Needle? Can you do? So I started to get all these commissions. But then the big one came when a gentleman called Alan Devey invested £1 million in me, $1 million, and opened up an exhibition at the City of Bath, which is a beautiful part of the UK. And they called it the Impossible Micro World. And, it got all these microscopes all specially made for me with all my microscopic sculptures in, and then promoted my name. And before I knew it, it won Specialist Museum of the Year. And then people coming in and saying, what I love about your work, people used to cry. They're coming to the exhibition, they were crying because we did a big opening night. We had a big party for this small work of art. Me and this guy called Manuel Lusa, who makes microscopic sculptures, a guy from Spain. So, you know, we were like we were the headlines of this micro museum. And then everybody was coming in, and people were crying, and then people were coming in and commissioning me. Could you make my dog? Oh, could you make my horse? Can you make this? Can you make? And then before I knew it, I had letters coming in from everywhere. Then the big one came from Buckingham Palace. I had a letter come from the door.
That's a recognizable name. I'll say that.
Yeah. And see what happened after that, Max? I was doing exhibitions in Covent Garden, and then I had when this letter come through the door from Buckingham Palace, it was the Queen sending me this letter to nominate me to receive an MBE for services to art, one of the highest awards you can get. And I'm like, I can't believe this is happening to me, you know? And I'm like, by then my mother had died. She didn't see what I was achieving, you know? But I'm sure she was up there looking at me. Then before I knew it, Max, I got real serious. I said to myself, I'm going to have to honor my mother's words. I'm going to take this to another level. So I disappeared for a long time. I stayed in my house and I concentrated underneath this microscope. I was working 16, 17 hours a day. I stayed there. I stayed there for so long. And you know what I did? I said to myself, right, I know what I'm going to do now. So what I did, I put 9 camels in the eye of a needle, because I heard them say it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. So I put 9 camels in the eye of a needle. And then I put Henry VIII and his 6 wives in. And then I had a phone call for a TV program called, it was Richard and Judy, and This Morning with Phil and Fern. Then I was on there. And then what was happening, the small grain of sand was thrown into the sea and a tidal wave was coming out of it. And then this lady came to me and she says, my husband has bought me a gift, but it's not big enough. And I said, what do you mean by that? She said, I want you to make me something really small. It was almost as though my mother was talking through this woman. And I said, what do you mean? She said, I want you to make me something small. She said, can you make me some little fairies sitting on a little toadstool in the eye of a needle? And I said, yeah, I can do that. And I made these little fairies in the eye of a needle. And this woman started to cry. I could see these tears falling out of her eyes. I started to think to myself, how can something so small have such a big impact on humanity? How come I am now showing the world how big small really is? But what made me realize, this guy came in, this big guy, he was a big Irish guy. He was a boxer and he used to spar with Mike Tyson.
No way.
Joe Egan. Mike Tyson used to hit this Irish guy so hard, but Mike Tyson could knock him out. He was his sparring partner. And he came into my exhibition. The room went dark because this guy's so big. And he came in and he looked through the microscope and he moved his head back and there's tears coming out of his eyes. And I'm like, fucking hell, bloody hell. And he looked at me and he says, I've never been knocked out before, but your work has knocked me out. My name's Joe Egan. Your work has knocked me clean out. What's your name? I said, my name's Willard Wigan. And me and him have become best friends ever since. And you know something, Max? I realized then that my autism, right, became my voice. My work became the biggest message in the world. Because they say that there's 4 letters in the word love. 1, 2, 3, 4. L-O-V-E. So that's the powerfulest word in the world, love. And that's what my work was creating, a lot of love. People was experiencing something small that had the biggest impact, you see? And my mother's words was resonating. You can say everything and mean nothing, and say a few words and mean everything. So my work allowed me to become a doctorate, to receive an honorary doctorate. You know, when I went in up onto that stage in my gown and my cloak, and I stood there and I looked around, I said to my school teacher, "Thank you very much. Thank you." When I walked into Buckingham Palace and I walked down the red carpet, and Prince Charles was standing there, Rod Stewart, a lot of celebrities, I could hear them. Majesty the Queen shall arrive shortly. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my God. You know what I mean?
No pressure.
Here I am. Yeah, but here I am. This man who was told that he was going to become nothing has now become the smallest, biggest nothing the world has ever seen. And when I received that doctorate at Warwick University, I now know how the Scarecrow felt in The Wizard of Oz, because he was given a brain with this certificate, and that was his brain.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I mean, that's how I felt. I was given this scroll, and like, oh. So what happened? That my autism didn't matter to me. So now, if I never had autism, Max, that wouldn't be who I am today. You know, I'm now spreading this word, and you know, I've done a documentary on me called "The World's Tiniest Masterpiece," which won an award. That's where I broke this record. I put a baby inside a human embryo, which can fit inside a human embryo, which is smallest handmade sculpture in history. And I also put a motorbike inside a human hair, smaller than any human being on this planet, all by hand, no machine, no nanotechnology. You know, the only technology I have is autism, and autism to me is a technology. It's a blessing. Humanity needs to uncover this disability, this underestimation, you know, and find out that there's so much more that autistic people can deliver to the world, because it's been covered up. It's only just starting to emerge. You see what I mean? It's like a bee sting, small, but when it stings you, it can kill you, even though it's tiny. An ant is small in stature, but immense in strength. The web of a spider is stronger than steel, you see? So, I mean, quiet people who don't say anything, if you mess with somebody quiet, they'll kick the fuck out of you. That something emerges out of them where you didn't think existed, you see? Because that's how humanity has a habit of underestimating. And they underestimated me. And here I am today, Dr. Willard Wigan, MBE, the creator of the smallest sculptures in history.
I have chills on chills on chills, and just every aspect of your life is inspiring and so vivid when you tell it that way. What advice do you have for anyone who, whether it's themselves or a family member who has autism or any sort of learning difference?
I would say this not just to an individual, I say to the whole world. If this message would go out to the whole world, autism is an unknown ability, because people have not uncovered it to realize how beneficial autistic people are to the world, because they have the hidden diamond, the diamond that we choose not to see, because we never took the lid off the trash bin to realize what's been thrown into the bin, you see. So all kids with autism, all adults alike with learning differences, right? You've been given a gift. Never allow anybody to tell you that you can't do anything, because what happens is that God has given you something to share with the world. And once it's uncovered, once you show, you may not think you have it, but once you show the world what you have and start to encourage yourself to bring out what you really have within, then the world's going to be in for a big surprise indeed. You see, if someone has a diploma, they can have qualifications in whatever, in architect or cabinet making or whatever it is they're making, interior design, whatever. If someone comes along with a certificate to say, I'm qualified as an interior designer. Here I am. There's my qualification. Right. Then somebody comes along and says, yeah, I'm an interior designer. Oh, do you have any qualifications? No. Well, you have to be qualified. So So hold on, just 1 second. Just hold on. This is what this. If I was a little angel, I'd land on the employer's shoulder and I'd say, "Hey, wait there. Look at the one who has less qualification and stop. Why is he here? Why has he come? He's come here because he knows he can. But this guy here has got a piece of paper. Fuck the piece of paper. Fuck that up. Let this guy show you." And he'd say, "Oh, do you have any pictures of what you do?" "Yes, I have." "Have a look." "Fuck. Oh my God. Where did you learn to do that?" I just did it. But how? That's impossible. Yeah, I just did it. See what I mean? And that's where I'm inspired by underestimation, you see, because that's what happens. That's why I like Tyson Fury as a boxer, you see, because he came from the brink of despair. Mental health broke him down. He was on the verge of committing suicide. He was on the verge of no direction. People wrote him off. But you know what he did? When he got knocked down, he rose like the phoenix out of the fire. And he stood up. And it's not what you do when you get knocked down, it's what you do when you get back up. See? So all these people that get knocked down, they were autistic. When you get back up, right, you're going to show the world what it's like people like when they get back up. You're going to show the people of the world what you're capable of doing. You're going to show the people of the world that autism and people with learning differences are the greatest of all time. That's my message to you. You're the greatest of all time. You know, Tyson Fury says, "I will never be beaten. Nobody's going to beat me. I will never be defeated." You know, all the great boxers, Muhammad Ali, "I will never be beat." But they beat themselves. You see what I mean? So greatness is within the autistic and learning difference. People who are disabled. I don't use the word disabled. Disabled people are able-bodied. They're not disabled. Open the trash bin and have a look and see where the diamond is. The best comes from where you least expect. What you least expect to happen, that's where it comes from. Sometimes people may look at somebody and say, "Oh, they look very nice," then, you know, and then, but they're not nice. And someone who doesn't look nice will be much nicer than the one who supposedly look nice, because they underestimate the other person. So I mean, if they see, "Oh, he's small, he can't fight," you know what I mean? Okay, how do you know that? You know what I mean? Try and say that to a Shaolin monk. You know what I mean? Try and say that to a honey badger. A honey badger. Try and mess with a honey badger, and you'll see the most ferocious animal on the planet, but he's only small. Lions have to run from a honey badger. You know, leopards run from a honey badger. You know, look at ants. You know, you can't mess with a group of army ants. You're not going to mess with them. It's like a chain. You know, one link. Once that goes, the whole chain falls apart. See what I mean? So it's like my message. My work is a message. It's a message to the world. It's a message to humanity. So I mean, there's a saying: just because you can't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The word nothing doesn't exist because there's always something, you see? And that's where I am here to represent people who have been written off, you see? That's why they say, always look at the small print. Don't forget to read the small print. I am a piece of dust in the corner of the room that people brush to one side. They didn't know, but now the whole world knows. I'm now 64 years old, and I'm getting greater and greater. I now found me. I found me. I lost me a few times, but I've now found me. So I know that I can find their me in autism, their me in you, even their me in people who have this learning condition. You know, without autism, I wouldn't be who I am today. I was given this gift, and I do believe that God has given me this gift. God has given it me. They threw it to me. I caught it. in my hand. And I ran with it, and I believe in destiny. I believe that my work can be beneficial to so many things. Even surgeons have come to me saying that, that if under supervision, you'd be able to perform microsurgery. So many surgeons say that to me all the time. Surgeons own my work. People say to me, I have a great big sculpture at home. It doesn't matter to me anymore. I don't care about that big one anymore. It's a little one that's had the biggest impact. This gentleman said to me, could you make my wife something really small? And I said, what do you want? He says, just make her something really small. Oh, let me see. I know what I'll make her. I'll make her Little Miss Muffet sitting on a tuffet, right? And I'll make Ringa Ringa Roses and Mary Mary, quite contrary, in the eye of a needle with a beautiful microscope, so that when they look through the microscope, it's the punch that knocks you out. Joe Egan said to me, he says, Willard, in boxing, it's a punch that you don't see that knocks you out. You see? And that's what my work is. My work is, it depicts me as a person. I am my work. That's what I am. But my work doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the world. When I create a piece of artwork, I don't want to see it anymore because it drives me mad. I don't enjoy doing it because when I'm working on such a molecular level, it's driving me crazy because I have to hold my breath. I have to paint with my eyelash. I pluck out one of my eyelashes with a paintbrush and I work between my heartbeats. And I'm doing this all the time. I don't stop. So it drives me crazy because that's all I can do. In my head, my mother told me, that's all you can do. You can't do anything else. That's all you can do. So if that's all I can do, why would the Queen own one of my sculptures? Why would the Queen ask me to make her a tiny crown, which she has in her private studies? It's a crown on the head of a pin. You see? So if that's all I can do, why have I received an MBE, a doctorate? So that's true what my mum said. That's all you can do. But I know one thing. I can talk. I may not be able to read, be able to write, but anybody that has one of my pieces of artwork, they have something bigger than anything that they've ever had in their whole life. When they see the presentation of the microscope and the light glowing inside it, and then they look through that microscope and they see their first child being held by a stork standing in the eye of a needle or on a pinhead, and it's recognizable. And if they have, even if they wear little glasses, I can put glasses on their head and I can even put the lenses in the glasses, because every time I make something, it's not good enough. It's not great enough. And my message is to people, never be satisfied with just being the best. Take it further. Be like Tyson Fury, be the greatest. Don't stop. Show the world what you're capable of, and that's what I'm doing. And my work is a message to the whole world. And my name is Dr. Willard Wigan, MBE, the greatest micro artist of all time. This is not a bragging statement. This is a confident statement. This is not me saying, I am better than you. I am the greatest at what I do. And if you don't believe you are, you won't become you are. You won't become what you say you are. So I am who I am, and I'm going to get greater. So all those people, when they reach 60, 64, 65, 66, 70, you're still the greatest of all time in your head.
Willard, endlessly beautifully said. I could listen to you talk into eternity, and you have so many powerful lessons, and those from yourself, from your own findings, those from your mom as well. Just so many amazing words of advice, inspiration, creativity. If you look at your work, it is so freaking cool. Like you have some of the most beautiful artwork creations I've ever seen, and you really have to to look them up and look at pictures of them, or hopefully see them in person one day to get a sense of really how small, how microscopic they are, and how detailed and beautiful they are.
I have an exhibition in the UK, which is here permanently, and it's called the Birmingham Contemporary Art Gallery. It's here permanently. Yes, I do commission work for people. I don't do too many because it'll drive me mad, but yes, I do that. I enjoy creating for people because I like to see their face when I'm doing. I like to see their heads pop out of their head. Those cartoons when the eyes go.
Yeah, it pops through the TV screen.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Sometimes, I'll sit down, Max, for a long time and I don't do anything. When I finish work, I can sit with no noise, just nothing. I'll sit in a room and I'll shut the door and I'll just sit there. And I'm just enjoying what my body is telling me to enjoy, and that's just sitting there. And I'm just thinking about lots of little things, and I'm just thinking and hoping the world will be a better place. And
Willard, thank you so much for your time, your stories, just taking us through your amazing creations and inspiring so many. Where is, if somebody wants to look online or on social media at some of your creations or just learn more about you, where is the best place for them to do that?
They can contact my website. You've got my website, Max. Yeah, they can get me there. If anybody wants me to talk to them individually, if they have a kid who's autistic and they want to reach out to me, I'll reach out to them, So if they want to talk to me, I will talk to them. I have a lot of patience. God has given me a reason on this earth, and I'm here to inspire, to let people know. Don't underestimate. Never, ever look down upon anybody, because you may be looking down on the wrong person.
The Diamond himself, the greatest micro-sculptor in the world. Willard, thank you so much for sharing your truly incredible, inspirational, life-changing life journey. And thank you, wild listeners, for tuning in to another episode. You can learn more about Willard and check out these amazing creations you truly have to see to believe at willardwiganmbe.com. You can also find him on social media. And to hear more wild stories like this one, you can follow the Wild Business Growth Podcast on your favorite podcast app and tell a friend about the podcast. You can also find us on Good Pods, where you can check out awesome podcast recommendations, cool podcast people. And for any help with podcast production, you can learn more at MaxPodcasting.com. Until next time, let your business run wild. Bring on the bongos!